Namaste. Want to talk to you today about how we can relieve our low back pain. So check out the video on some tips to relieve the low back pain and give some quick things you can do while you're driving or while you're sitting at your meeting at work. But today I want to focus more on what we can do in our yoga practice. And in fact, this series, this 5-part series, is meant to be an entire yoga therapy protocol that you can use to rehabilitate your low back. So if you've suffered from things like herniated discs or just chronic low back pain, this could be something that's good for you. Always make sure you're consulting with your doctor if you are working with one for any more extensive injuries. So again, this series is meant to layer on top of one another. So we'll start today with level 1, showing you 3 exercises to begin with at the beginning of your journey. As these moves become more easy for you and your body starts to open and strengthen, then you can start to add on level 2, level 3, and level 4. By the end of all 5 levels, the idea is that you've got an entire yoga therapy sequence that you can use to rehabilitate your low back. Now, it's not just for when you're experiencing chronic pain, but at any time, or rehabilitating from a particular injury. You can use this sequence anytime you start to feel a little fatigued in the low back. So maybe you just had some travel, or you've done something that kind of tweaked the chronic pain. You can use this sequence anytime. So let's get started with the first 3 exercises. So the first move we want to focus on are the pelvic tilts. So you'll come to a supine position, which means lying on your back on the floor. Once you're lying in the supine position, you'll take the soles of the feet below the knees and root the soles of the feet to the mat. You want to focus on the movement of your pelvis here. So a way to do this easily is to bring your awareness to the tailbone, and you're going to control where the tailbone is pointing. So before we start moving, make sure the rest of the spine is nice and neutral. So notice where your chin is pointing. If it's up towards the sky, you may have some tension in the neck. Draw the chin a bit towards the chest to keep the neck nice and long as you do your pelvic tilts. So on an inhalation, you're going to send the tailbone towards the floor, lifting the vertebrae of the low back. You can actually see a little sliver of space between the floor and the back. On your exhalation, drawing the tailbone more forward, drawing belly button to spine, pressing the lumbar spine, those lower vertebrae, into the floor. Again, on an inhalation, tilting the pelvis in such a way that you can maybe stick your hand underneath your back. And on the exhalation, pressing those lumbar spine into the earth, into the floor, tailbone reaching forward. And all the while, ensuring that the whole spine is long and relaxed. Okay, so for the second move, we're going to take some windshield wipers to start to open up the hip flexors and open up through the legs and the low back. So take the soles of the feet to the mat, and then take the feet wider than the mat. You want them to be literally on the floor next to the mat. So even a little wider, Christine. Yeah. Now on an inhalation, you're going to try to lengthen the spine, sending the tailbone forward, rooting down. And on your exhale, send the knees to one side. Really reach through the whole psoas, so from the low rib all the way through the hip flexor, through the leg and the knee. Try to touch the knees to the floor. They may not touch the floor, but it's your intention, your energy that makes the difference. Moving with breath, you're going to inhale the knees up through center, lengthening through the spine, and exhale the knees to the other side. Again, trying to take the knees all the way to the floor. If you're experiencing any discomfort, don't go as far, but still keep the movement. So if you experience any pain during this move, you can just simply, again, shorten the movement. So don't take it as far, just come to your edge. You'll find that over time, as you continue to repeat the movement, you'll be able to go further with less discomfort. Make sure you take this at least 10 times each direction, and that you move slowly with the breath. There's no sense in using momentum to do this move. You want to be very mindful and specific in your movement. So let's move on to the third exercise. Okay, so ready for the third move. We've already done our pelvic tilts, minimum 10 times, best to move maybe to 3 rounds of 10. Second move, was the windshield wiper, where we're doing at least 10, again moving up to 3 rounds of 10. And the final exercise is actually going to be a more restful posture, a gentle inversion, a variation of legs up the wall. The reason we're not going to put the legs up the wall is because we tend to externally rotate the legs when they're just relaxed up the wall. And what we're trying to do here is specifically retrain the alignment of the hips and of the hip flexors. So we're going to take a chair and use it to set the calves on. So Christine, go ahead and bend your legs, soles of the feet to the mat. I'll bring the chair here. Now she's going to take her calves and put them on top of the chair. Now if you notice right now, her hips and her knees are out of alignment. So what we want to do is make sure that we're stacking the bones. We want to stack the hips right below the knees. So Christine, move your hips up to touch my hand. There we go. And now we've got this perfect, I'm going to move the chair up a little bit. Now we've got a perfect stack of the knee right above the hip. We want to be able to breathe here, relaxing for about 3 to 5 minutes. And really allow the weight of the bones to sink further into the pelvis. Just breathing here. You can take your 3-part belly breath. If you haven't watched the video on the Durga Pranayama or the 3-part yogic breath, go ahead and take a look. But that type of breath will be perfect here to relax the body and start to allow more opening through the pelvis, more relief through the low back. So this is the last and final exercise for level 1 of relieving the low back pain. When this becomes easy for you and you experience almost no discomfort doing the movements, then it's time to move on to level 2. So practice, yogis, and we'll see you at level 2 when your body is ready. Namaste.